Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, and today we're opening a file that feels a little heavier than our usual topics.
I'm your resident expert, and yeah, I'd agree with that. This isn't just a regular update on a new tool. This one requires a bit of a deep breath.
Right. We are looking at episode 11 of the AI Future series, which is authored by Jafar Humayun. The title is The Gravitational Shift.
It's a title that really stops you in your tracks, because we aren't talking about, a chatbot writing better emails. We're talking about physics.
The physics of how labor and capital and basically entire organizations are being pulled apart and put back together.
Exactly. And before we get into the mechanics of this, and there's some heavy stuff in here, we really need to set the framework.
Which Humayun is very specific about. He states explicitly, AI Futures is not a forecast, it is a framework.
Right, and that distinction is crucial for you listening at home. A forecast is guessing what the weather will be next Tuesday. A framework is understanding how air pressure works so you know why the storm is happening.
He's describing the mechanics of the present, not predicting the future.
Yes, it's an observation. And to really grasp this storm, we have to touch on where we left off in the last deep dive, which was episode 10.
The social contract revelation. That was a huge red pill moment.
Oh, absolutely. That analysis looked at how corporate loyalty, the whole idea that a company takes care of you because it's the right thing to do, was historically just a byproduct of labor being irreplaceable.
Because you literally couldn't run the factory without human hands.
No.
Companies treated people decently because they desperately needed people.
But once you introduce technology that decouples capital from labor...
that necessity evaporates.
Exactly. And when the necessity goes, the contract dissolves, which lands us squarely in today's focus, the gravitational shift.
This is all about the mechanics of how that contract actually dissolves. And the first thing that struck me in the source material is how it totally argues against the Hollywood version of AI.
You mean the hostile takeover idea?
Right. The robots kicking down the door, lasers blazing, coming to steal our jobs. Humayun says, no, that is not what's happening at all.
He calls it a systemic succession, which is such an important reframe. A coup is when a strong system is violently overthrown. A succession happens when an old system it dies of natural causes or it retires.
And something else just steps into the void. The line that really stuck with me was, the door was left open.
It's a haunting image. The AI didn't break the door down. The door to the economy was left ajar because the human institutions inside were already exhausted.
They were broken before the AI even showed up. So the framework splits this transition into two main forces, the push and the pull.
Let's start with the push. This is the part we hear about most often in tech news.
Right, the shiny new capability shoving its way into the office.
Yeah.
The source material refers to this as the momentum of synthetic cognition.
And it breaks that momentum down into four specific forces. The first one is the capability explosion.
We hear exponential growth thrown around a lot. But what does that actually look like in a business context? Because usually people just mean it summarizes PDFs faster.
It is so much more than that. It's the transition from specific utility to general utility. 2 years ago, you had a model that could maybe analyze data, or one that could write copy.
Clever tools.
Exactly. But now you have a single entity that can write production-ready Python code, draft a watertight legal NDA, design a marketing campaign, and simulate the consumer reaction to that campaign.
Simultaneously.
That is the key word, cross-domain execution. If you wanted a human team to do that, you'd need a coder, a lawyer, a copywriter, and a strategist.
Plus the project manager to schedule the meetings for all of them to coordinate.
Right. The AI is all of those people in one instant at scale, which leads directly into the second force of the push, radical efficiency.
Now, to me, this just sounds like standard corporate speak for firing people to save money. Is there a deeper mechanic here?
Look at the unit economics. Historically, human labor is a high fixed cost.
Meaning, I have to pay your salary, your benefits, your health insurance, whether we have a slow month or a busy month.
Correct. You are a liability on the balance sheet that has to be serviced every 2 weeks. AI pushes the entire business model toward near zero marginal costs.
Break that down for someone who doesn't live in spreadsheets.
It means the cost of doing one more unit of work is practically zero. If I have an AI agent asking it to write 100 reports, costs me fractions of a penny more than asking it to write one.
There's no overtime pay.
No overtime, no health insurance premiums, no burnout. It transforms the business structure from fixed to variable. You only pay for the compute you use. The ROI is automatic.
That makes sense. And then force number 3 is frictionless onboarding. This one I found really relatable because hiring is just a massive headache.
It's pure friction.
Yep.
Post the job, sift through hundreds of resumes, do the phone screens, the in-person interviews.
The background checks, the salary negotiations.
Yeah.
And then they finally start, and they don't even know where the digital files are stored.
Right. You have this 3 to 6 month ramp-up period before they are actually fully productive. The source contrasts that traditional HR cycle with AI deployment.
Compares it to electricity. You just flip a switch.
You get an API key, you plug it in, and the current flows. Full productivity immediately. There's no culture fit assessment or learning curve. It's plug-and-play competence.
So when you stack those 3, the capability, the efficiency, and the speed, you get the 4th force, which is executive incentives.
The rational mandate. This is the part that removes all the emotion from the boardroom.
Because if you're a CEO and someone shows you a model that cuts your operating expenses by 40% while keeping output flat or even growing it, Brian.
You don't really have a choice. The market rewards that decision. If you say no because you want to protect jobs, your competitors say yes, your stock tanks, and the board replaces you with a CEO who will pull the trigger.
It's not emotional. It's about what the market values. So that is the push. The technology is shoving its way in because it makes too much mathematical sense not to.
But now we have to turn to the pull. And this is the part of the framework that is a bit uncomfortable to talk about.
Yeah, because the push is about the technology being incredibly good.
Mm-hmm.
The pull seems to be about humans being, well, it feels like it's blaming the workforce.
Humayun is very careful with the tone here, and we need to be too. These are not personal faults of the workers.
Right.
He frames them as systemic limits. It's not that people are lazy. It's that the human-centric systems we built have cracked under pressure. The alternative just exposed those cracks.
So what is the first force of this pull pulling the AI in?
Systemic fatigue. Think about the defining vibe of the workforce right now.
It's exhaustion,
Mhm.
burnout, quiet quitting, just a general sense of being totally drained.
The human workforce is physically and mentally tired. The system has been running at redline for decades. That fatigue leaves a vacuum.
Which leads to the second force, the economic deadlock.
Yeah.
This is the macro view, where wage pressures are constantly rising because of inflation and cost of living.
But human output is stagnating. We can't type any faster. We can't process information any faster. Humans have become drastically more expensive without becoming more productive.
That is a deadlock for any business.
Exactly. Then there's force number 3, the training mismatch. This is about our education system.
This one hits home. We are still preparing people for administrative tasks and process repetition.
Right. Universities are minting graduates who are trained to coordinate information, which are the exact things AI now trivializes.
So we're spending 4 years and massive amounts of debt to train people for a world that has already evaporated.
It creates a huge gap. And the final force of the pull is cognitive volatility.
Meaning the difference between human biology and silicon.
Humans are inconsistent. We have bad days, we get sick, we have emotional flare-ups, we need reassurance.
And AI doesn't hesitate. It doesn't spiral or need a pep talk.
It offers perfect consistency. So to synthesize all of that, AI didn't cause these workplace problems. It exposed them and provided a replacement for a system that was already breaking.
Okay, so we have the theory, push meets pull. But I want to know what this actually looks like in practice, because the source material provides a really quantitative reality check here.
The rewired organization. This is where the framework gets down to the actual math, contrasting the old model with the AI native model.
Let's run through these comparative metrics because they are staggering. Let's start with customer support.
In the old model, a large enterprise might have 800 call center agents.
And in the AI native model,
That drops to 50 escalation specialists paired with an automated AI layer.
from 800 to 50.
The AI handles the volume, and the 50 humans only touch the complex, sensitive cases. Now look at finance. You go from 200 analysts crunching spreadsheets down to 15 auditors using GPT-powered tools.
Engineering is the one that really shocked me.
You go from 2,000 developers to 100 architects using copilots and agentic workflows.
HR and recruiting drops from 100 staff members to 10 partners managing an automated stack.
And sales goes from 300 reps down to 30 closers, aided by an AI negotiation layer.
What about facilities and admin?
From 150 support staff to 0. Because the AI native organization is fully remote and AI managed.
So the result of this rewiring, you're looking at up to an 85% savings in annual costs.
And latency drops from days to seconds. This reveals a profound structural shift in scaling constraints.
The shift from being gated by headcount to being gated by compute.
Yes. In the old world, if you wanted to double your output, you had to hire twice as many people.
Yep.
You were gated by how fast you could interview, hire, and train.
Which takes months.
Now you are gated by compute. If you want to double output, you don't hire 500 people. You just allocate more GPU capacity. You scale instantly.
And the source frames this not as some strategic reinvention, but as strict survival logic.
If your competitor adopts this model, their costs drop 85% and they move at light speed. If you stick to the human-heavy model, they will price you out of existence. You have to rewire to survive.
I have to pause here.
Yeah.
Because we're throwing these numbers around 800 down to 50, 2,000 down to 100. And for anyone listening who works in these fields, it feels incredibly heavy.
It feels like a betrayal.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like a betrayal of the workforce.
The framework addresses this in segment 4, gravitational inevitability. It takes that feeling of betrayal and reframes it into an execution reality.
How so?
In the executive suite, this isn't animosity toward workers. It is instruction following. It's the logic of execution.
Explain that concept a bit more.
Historically, labor was the engine of the company. It drove everything forward. Now, in these high-velocity AI-native environments, labor is the bottleneck.
Because humans are high-dependency entities.
Exactly. We need sleep, we need management, we need HR departments. If a CEO can cut costs 10x while doubling output and removing all those dependencies, it's a calculation. It's not cruelty.
It's the math of institutional persistence, which creates what Jung calls the black hole effect.
The combined force of the push and the pull creates a gravitational pull so strong that it sucks in everything around it.
And we need to clarify the scope of this impact. For a long time, the narrative was that only low-skill work or repetitive physical labor was at risk.
Not anymore. The black hole is pulling in high-skill sectors. Legal review, insurance claims processing, clinical notes in healthcare.
Research synthesis, product design.
Anything that involves processing information is subject to this gravity. It leads to what the text calls the eclipse of labor.
The eclipse of labor. That's a powerful phrase.
The future of organizations is being determined by a simple rule. What delivers the desired outcome with the fewest dependencies?
And silicon has fewer dependencies than biology.
Precisely. But we have to stick to the tone guardrails Humean sets up here. We cannot view this as an attack or an evil scheme.
Right. There's no shadowy cabal plotting to ruin lives.
It is operational maturity. It is successive occupancy. The AI is simply filling a void left by a legacy system that had reached its cognitive ceiling.
The system isn't being violently broken. It's being replaced because it couldn't scale any further.
It's a rewiring, a saturation of new optimization.
And that brings us to the final takeaway for you, the listener. Civilization is beginning to rewire itself, almost beneath the silence.
It's not about who tries the hardest or works the longest hours anymore. It is strictly about efficiency and dependencies.
Which leaves us with a provocative thought to mull over. If your value to an organization historically has been defined by you being a necessary dependency, what happens to your structural necessity when that dependency is automated?
Yeah. If the cost of generating answers drops to near zero, where does the human value sit?
Maybe it shifts entirely to knowing which questions to ask.
Or maybe the value decouples entirely, which perfectly sets up our next deep dive.
Yes. On episode 12, we are going to tackle the middle-class collapse.
The tagline for that one is, Why Token-Era Productivity Shreds the Societal Backbone.
We'll be exploring why the massive efficiency gains we just talked about might decouple from the stability of the majority.
It's going to be a fascinating look at the societal fallout of this rewiring.
Until then, take some time to process the push and the pull. Stay tuned.
Stay curious.
Stay systemic. Catch you on the next deep dive.